What does a shower look like when water does not fall? Sleep. On the International Space Station is not a simple matter of closing your eyes. In microgravity, the body no longer sinks into a mattress or settles under its own weight. Instead, each astronaut secures themselves inside a sleeping bag, tethered to the wall or ceiling with Velcro loops and restraint straps. These bags are designed to keep the body from floating freely and drifting into equipment or other crew members. The compartment itself is lined with acoustic blankets and noise-absorbing panels to dampen the constant hum of life support fans and pumps. The ambient noise on the ISS averages 65 decibels, roughly the level of a busy office. Airflow is carefully engineered. Small fans circulate fresh air through the sleep station to prevent exhaled carbon dioxide from pooling around the sleeper's face, a risk unique to weightlessness. Each crew member is allotted a 6 to 7 hour block for rest, scheduled in coordination with the station's 90-minute orbit and its relentless cycle of sunrises and sunsets. Peggy Whitson, who logged 665 days in orbit, described the sensation as floating in the dark and emphasized the importance of personal rituals, reading, music, or simply zipping up the bag to anchor herself in an environment where there is no natural night. Every detail, from the Velcro to the airflow, reflects the underlying reality. On the ISS, even sleep is a system to be managed, not a luxury to be taken for granted. Eating aboard the International Space Station is a carefully engineered process, shaped by the realities of microgravity and strict resource limits. Every meal begins with a pouch, freeze-dried, vacuum-sealed, and labeled with precise instructions. Astronauts use a water dispenser to inject exactly half a liter of recycled water into each pouch, rehydrating the contents without risking floating droplets. The galley's food warmer draws 150 watts per cycle, just enough to heat several meals while fitting within the station's tight power budget. Each step is designed to prevent crumbs or spills, which could damage equipment or clog air filters. Instead of bread, tortillas are standard, chosen because they don't shed particles. Utensils and trays are equipped with Velcro, keeping everything anchored during the meal. The routine is rigid, but within these constraints, food remains a vital source of comfort and morale. European Space Agency astronaut Tim Peake said that a slice of pizza in orbit feels like a hug from Earth. Even the smallest indulgence, a familiar taste or a warm meal, serves as a psychological anchor in an environment where every resource is measured and nothing is left to chance. Personal hygiene aboard the International Space Station is a daily negotiation with physics and engineering. There are no showers, no running water, and every drop must be carefully managed. Astronauts clean themselves using a methodical routine, a sponge bath with rinseless wipes, completed in 5 to 7 minutes. Each session is performed twice a day, with water rationed and every movement planned to avoid stray droplets. The absence of gravity means even a bead of sweat can float into electronics or ventilation, so hygiene is as much about containment as cleanliness. For waste, the Universal Waste Management System, known as the UWMS, serves as the latest solution. Weighing 45 kilograms and standing just over 70 centimeters tall, it is 65% lighter than earlier models. The UWMS uses negative pressure airflow to capture both liquid and solid waste, channeling urine to a processor that reclaims up to 85% as potable water. Solid waste is compressed and sealed for later disposal. AIR flow is critical, because without it, waste would not move, and odors would linger in the closed environment. Former Commander Chris Hadfield once remarked, "When the toilet stops, the whole station smells like a closed bathroom. You start to miss the simple act of flushing." These routines are not just about comfort. They are essential to health and morale in a sealed, shared habitat where privacy is limited and every system is part of a larger life support chain. Inside the International Space Station, quiet moments are rare. The ambient noise level hovers around 65 decibels, equivalent to a busy office, created by fans, pumps, and the constant cycling of air and water through life support systems. For astronauts, this steady hum is inescapable, a reminder that the station is a machine first, a home second. Privacy is limited to small crew quarters, barely large enough for a sleeping bag, a laptop, and a handful of personal items. Even here, thin walls and shared ventilation offer little true isolation. Constant monitoring of mood and behavior is not optional. NASA's Human Research Program tracks psychological states through scheduled check-ins and digital mood surveys. Every 2 weeks, astronauts complete standardized assessments, measuring tension, irritability, and fatigue, while Mission Control reviews the data for early signs of stress. In the first days of a mission, irritability scores climb by 10 to 15% as crew adapt to the relentless noise, the absence of privacy, and the pressure of a tightly regimented schedule. Most adjust within 2 weeks, but the adaptation is never complete. The daily routine is divided into 5-minute blocks, with every task assigned a slot on the master timeline. From hygiene to scientific experiments, nothing is left to chance. Behavioral health specialists on Earth join regular psych check calls, offering conflict resolution and support. These briefings have reduced reported interpersonal tension by 20% on long-duration missions. As one flight surgeon explained, the schedule is both a shield and a strain. Structure helps, but the lack of unplanned time wears on everyone. On the ISS, mental health is managed as rigorously as any technical system, with human performance tracked as closely as oxygen levels or carbon dioxide scrubbers. Exercise on the International Space Station is not optional. It is a prescription written into every astronaut's daily schedule as a matter of long-term survival. In microgravity, the body sheds muscle and bone at a rate that would be catastrophic on Earth. Without mechanical loading, astronauts lose up to 2% of bone density per year, with the greatest losses in the hips and spine. The countermeasure is a strict 2-hour regimen, combining resistance and cardiovascular training on machines engineered for this extreme environment. The Advanced Resistive Exercise Device, or ARED, stands as the centerpiece of this protocol. Weighing 165 kilograms, it is the heaviest single piece of non-essential hardware on the station, but its presence is non-negotiable. ARED uses vacuum cylinders to simulate free weights, delivering up to 600 pounds of resistance, enough to replicate squats, deadlifts, and bench presses. This mechanical load is essential for signaling the body to maintain bone and muscle, even in the absence of gravity. Alongside ARED, astronauts use a treadmill with vibration isolation and a cycle ergometer, each drawing about 150 watts of power. The schedule is precise: 30 minutes of resistance, 45 minutes of cardio, 45 minutes of flexibility and cooldown, all slotted into 5-minute intervals to prevent overlap and maximize equipment use. Medical data backs up the discipline. Adherence to the full 2-hour protocol limits bone loss to less than 2% per year, compared to 5% or more when sessions are skipped. Muscular atrophy is similarly contained. As flight surgeon Dr. Scott Parazynski said, after a session on ARED, he feels like he is back on Earth, and it is the only time his heart rate spikes in a good way. Every repetition is tracked, logged, and reviewed by Mission Control. The mass and power devoted to these machines reflect a hard truth. On the ISS, maintaining the human body is as much an engineering challenge as keeping the station itself alive. The ability to return to Earth healthy, able to walk, and ready for future missions depends on this daily negotiation with physics. Everyday survival on the International Space Station depends on a web of life support systems operating within narrow margins. The carbon dioxide removal assembly, called CDRA, must keep exhaled carbon dioxide below safe thresholds, and each zeolite cartridge lasts about 60 days before saturation. In May 2010, a failure of that system forced the crew and ground teams into a contingency plan. Physical activity was restricted to slow carbon dioxide buildup, while Houston coordinated the delivery and installation of a replacement cartridge. Even routine actions like breathing and moving are calculated against system limits. Water is another fragile resource. The urine processor recovers up to 85% of water from waste, but any malfunction can quickly strain reserves. Radiation exposure remains a constant, invisible threat. Annual doses on the International Space Station average 150 millisieverts, 50 times higher than on Earth. Mission planners weigh every shield and filter against mass and power constraints, knowing that a single subsystem failure can escalate rapidly. As one flight controller put it, the station is a closed loop. There is no backup plan beyond what we bring and what we fix. Every kilogram launched to the International Space Station carries a price tag that shapes every design decision. In 2000, sending a single kilogram to orbit cost around $22,000. By 2020, commercial providers like NASA and SpaceX had pushed that figure closer to $10,000 per kilogram. Yet even at these rates, a 10-kilogram spare part no larger than a shoebox represents a $100,000 investment before it ever leaves Earth. Resource allocation is a negotiation between technical need and financial reality. The food mass budget, for example, is capped at 130 kilograms per crew member per 6-month rotation, with only a small fraction reserved for morale-boosting items. Engineers weigh every component against its launch cost. The Universal Waste Management System, at 45 kilograms, saved 30 kilograms over its predecessor, translating to a $300,000 reduction in launch expenses for each unit. These savings are not abstract. They decide which comforts or redundancies can be afforded. As one systems engineer explained, mass is the currency of survival in orbit. Every gram must justify its place. On the International Space Station, economics is not an afterthought. It is the final constraint that defines how astronauts live, what they eat, and what can be repaired when systems fail. Today, every aspect of life aboard the station is governed by the physics of constraints, mass, power, airflow, and closed-loop control. As NASA flight surgeon Dr. Smith notes, on the ISS, adaptation is not optional, it is engineered. These boundaries define the frontier. Our future in space depends on mastering them.